everybody. Halloween is right around the corner, which means we are tackling all things spooky, dark, and evil. And today we're talking about everyone's favorite characters, villains. Villains are the baddies of our novels. They're there to thwart the hero's plan and basically fuck shit up. A while back, I broke down the 10 best tips for writing your villains, and today, in true Halloween fashion, I am breaking down the 10 worst tips for writing your villains. All the shit that'll ruin your poor defenseless book. Now, usually I present these lists sarcastically, however today, I'm gonna do things a little bit differently. One, because a lot of you guys are really sensitive about villains, goddamn. Two, because some of these tips aren't necessarily bad, it's just how they are interpreted and presented that causes a problem. People are out here acting like you have to write your villains a certain way when that couldn't be further from the truth. Let me know which tips you find aggravating. Personally, number 8 makes me roll my eyes so hard I can see my brain. Let's give this topic the green light, shall we? Before we get started, I wanted to give all my love to Milanote for sponsoring today's video. Milanote is an easy-to-use tool that allows you to organize all of your thoughts and ideas into visual boards. It's not the same as traditional software, which typically exists as a linear document. Instead, Milanote works like a studio wall or a poster board, which makes way more sense because creativity is anything but linear. Milanote allows you to take your mess of ideas and move them around however you please, which is perfect for organizing your thoughts, brainstorming, and for acting as a creative hub for whatever you're working on. I literally use Milanote every single day. I use it to plan my YouTube content, and of course, I use it to brainstorm all aspects of my writing, world building, plotting, structure, and especially all my characters from my heroes to my villains. And on top of that, you can use Milanote for free. Literally $0. It doesn't get much better than that. But wait, there's more. Milanote is hosting a giveaway just for you guys. If you're ready to start crafting your characters and creating your novel, sign up for Milanote for free using the link in the description below, and 5 lucky winners will be walking away with a free pro subscription. Click the link, try them out for free, and you might be walking away with a pro subscription for $0. It's that easy. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I post new videos on Wednesdays, and if you want to be alerted as soon as I upload, and I know that you do, ring that bell, do it. I'm giving you the green light. The Savior's Champion and the Savior's Sister are available in ebook, paperback, hardback, and audiobook. They are available all over the place. You can get them on Amazon, you can get them on Barnes & Noble, you can get them at Book Depository. I've got them linked below, so check them out. Come on, what are you waiting for? Just do it. Now I am breaking down the 10 worst tips for writing villains in 3, 2, 1, go. Number 1, give your villain a tragic backstory. This is the most common piece of advice I see floating around about villains. So many people believe that evil needs to come from somewhere, typically a horrible, tragic experience. That isn't how this works. Can someone become evil due to hardship? Absolutely, it's totally possible. But psychologically speaking, the odds are higher that hardship breeds empathy in a human being. Basically, it's more realistic for your hero to have a tragic backstory than your villain. Research also suggests that a lack of hardship can create colder, unfulfilled human beings. It's the whole spoiled brat ideology. You've never had to work for anything in your life, so nothing really holds value to you. That's not to say that none of your villains should have tragic backstories. Of all the antagonists I've written, I think about 2 of them had a really fucked up childhood, but a vast majority of them probably shouldn't. And to claim that villains need to have a traumatic past to justify their evil is both negligent and ignorant. On a related note, number 2, all villains are mentally ill. People villainize mental illness all the time. A huge bulk of antagonists in fiction are crazy. Probably because of their tragic backstory, am I right? But statistically speaking, mentally ill people are far more likely likely to be victims of a crime. Mental illness isn't a strength or a superpower. It leaves people vulnerable. It's a struggle to deal with. You can absolutely write a mentally ill villain if you want to, so long as you also have a bunch of mentally ill heroes and mentally ill good guys and mentally ill gray characters. You know, mix it up. And at the very least, do your research. Sensationalizing PTSD, borderline personality disorder, and anxiety is trite, tired, and harmful. Number 3, all villains think they're the good guy. There's a common saying that every villain is the hero of their own story. I'd argue that the statement is true if you say that some villains are the hero of their own story. You absolutely can write about a villain who believes that what they're fighting for is just and good. That sounds like a very compelling read. But to claim that all villains believe themselves to be good is factually incorrect. Plenty of people are willing to do terrible things for their own benefit. Their personal advancement and comfort matter much more to them than whatever collateral damage happens along the way. Narcissism, greed, and ambition are all perfectly logical motivators that have nothing to do with goodness. Stay away from absolutes like all villains think they're good, because that just breeds one-dimensional stiff characters. Number 4, give the villain their own point of view. A lot of writers want to devote entire chapters to their villain's point of view for an obvious reason. They're really fun to write. That doesn't mean their point of view adds any benefit to your novel. I've read a lot of books in my lifetime, and I can only think of 2 novels where reading the villain's point of view added any kind of depth or benefit to the overall story. Quite often, the villain's point of view reads as self-indulgent. It's an opportunity for the writer to show just how bad the villain really is, or for us to see the tragic backstory we really didn't need. But Jenna, readers need to know the villain's motivation. More often than not, that should be clear through the character's actions and characterization. Motivation doesn't have to be written out in neon lights. If the character behaves in a selfish manner, then the readers know they're selfish. If they have a grandiose, arrogant personality, the reader can tell they're narcissistic. It's not your job to treat the reader like they're stupid, and that's exactly what you're doing if you're giving them a point of view they don't need. Number 5, your villain is more important than your main character. False. Your villain is as important as your main character and should be crafted with equal attention and care. But when you treat your villain as if they're more important than the main character, you create a compelling, engaging villain and then a lifeless turd of an MC. That's a problem. The main character is usually the point of view of the novel. The reader is following them throughout the entire story. You want them to be engaging. You want them to hook the reader. But Jenna, villains are just more fun to write than main characters. Then maybe your main character fucking sucks. If you're having trouble making the main character entertaining, maybe it's time to put the villain down for a second and flesh that hero out. Create a main character the readers can rally behind. That way they don't reach the end of the story wishing that the hero died and the villain succeeded. Number 6, kill the wife. I know I talk a lot about fridging a woman, but that's because this cliche is so prevalent and so awful. Fridging a woman is when a female character, usually a romantic partner, is killed off in order to motivate and thus advance the plot of a male character. This is commonly used in reference to heroes. However, if you take a look at a lot of villains throughout fictional media, you will notice that a lot of them became evil because of what? That's right, a dead wife. Look, guys, if I have to explain why breaking down the literal mortality of a woman as nothing more than a plot device for a man is annoying, then I've got nothing for you. You're beyond hope. But internalized sexism aside, this trope is overdone and boring. You're better than that. You can think of something else. I believe in you. Number 7, all the female villains want Juvederm. While a huge bulk of male villains are motivated by the death of a wife, an equally large, if not larger group of female villains are motivated by beauty and youth. They are resorting to evil tactics for the sole purpose of staying young and pretty forever. I'm not gonna say that women don't care about physical appearance, because some do. Hell, a lot of people, period, care about aesthetic appearance. But the reason this is on the list is because the whole beauty and youth thing has become the go-to motivator for female villains. People can't think of anything else. What if I told you women could have the same motivations as men? Greed, power, ego, making the world their idealized version of a better place. The beauty cliche has been done to death. Leave it behind in fairy tales. You are creative enough to dig deeper. Number 8, don't read into it. Biases can leak into our writing, even ones we didn't realize we had. This is never more apparent than when writing villains. A lot of writers will say, don't read into it. These are just the characters that popped into my mind. But if all of your heroes are Caucasian coded and then all of your villains have a darker complexion, readers are gonna notice. If all of your heroes are straight or able-bodied and all of your villains are disabled or queer-coded, readers are also gonna notice. But Jenna, does that mean all of my villains have to be straight, white, able-bodied people? Of course not. It just means your entire cast should be realistically diverse. A queer villain is fine if you've got queer heroes and queer supporting cast as well. Just remember, you're the writer. You don't get to hover over each and every reader's shoulder and tell them not to read into it. They're reading into it, and you look like a douche. Number 9, you have to make them redeemable. God, more of this shit. Redemption arcs are very much in style. It's fine. They're not my fave, but I'll go with it. However, due to the redemption arc trend, it's also become popular to tell all writers that they must make all of their villains redeemable. I'm gonna give that a big fat fuck no. They can be redeemable if you want, if that's the direction you plan to go in, but sometimes a villain needs to commit genocide and there's no coming back from that. The problem with a lot of tips on this list is that they are absolutes. The villain must be redeemable. The villain must think they're the good guy. There are some absolutes in writing, like you must have an editor and your story must have structure. But this ain't one of those situations. If you plan on exploring the redemption path, make sure your villain does shit that can be redeemed. And number 10, emulate your favorites. As writers, we're often told to look to our favorites in order to inspire our creativity, and while this can be helpful, it can also be dangerous. For many, emulation turns into imitation and then regurgitation, which leads to watered-down, one-dimensional versions of characters we already love. Never is this more prevalent than when it comes to villains. The issue with emulating your favorites is that a lot of our favorite villains come from sources of media that do not translate well into novels. I know a lot of people who love anime and model their fictional villains after anime villains, but a lot of anime has a very over-the-top, grandiose vibe that would be considered stale or trite if written into a novel. Instead of emulating your favorite villains, I would encourage you to research some of the biggest villains throughout history. Real-life baddies who actually did bad shit. This will give you a better idea of how to craft an antagonist who is layered and believable. So that's all I got for you today. A huge thank you to Milanote for sponsoring today's video. I've got a link listed below for you to try Milanote out for free right now, and even better, they are hosting a huge giveaway. So if you sign up for free, you might be walking away with a pro subscription. 5 lucky winners are gonna hit it big, so click the link, sign up for free. You won't regret it. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I post new videos on Wednesdays, and if you want to be alerted as soon as I upload, ring that bell. The Savior's Champion and the Savior Sister are available in ebook, paperback, hardback, and audiobook. They are available wide all over the place. I've got them linked below. Click and buy. Do it now. And be sure to follow me on social media. I'm on Instagram, Tumblr, Facebook, and BookBub. And of course, you can tweet me at Jenna Moreci. Bye!
It's Delphi. Get off your lazy bum and subscribe to Jenna's channel. Ring the bell while you're at it. I know you were thinking about it already. I see it in your eyes. Come on. Live a little. Subscribe.